can run a successful business, but that doesn't mean that you are necessarily being productive and smart with your time. And it is exactly at this point that there is a lot to be gained for entrepreneurs that are already, a little bit longer in business and then want to look at how can I design my business more within the boundaries of my preferences about how many hours I want to work, for example. So in this episode, I will give you some tips and tricks about how you can use your time more smart and productively. Hello and welcome to the Online Business Insights podcast. My name is Phyllis and I'm a business strategist and business mentor. I am your guide in growing your online business, and in this show we will be talking about doing online business, growing your business, productivity and so much more. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review and to connect with me on Instagram. Enjoy today's episode and we'll talk again next week. The first thing to do is to start working with time blocking. So you create certain themes in your business and you decide how many hours for that theme you will allocate per week and at what moment in time. For example, every Wednesday morning it is your content creation morning. And maybe on Thursday afternoon you start working on search engine optimization. And maybe you want to give doing outreach for sales a certain place in your week and you put that on your Monday afternoon, for example. So have a look at the certain themes that are in your business and that can be different for everyone. And in my case, for example, every month it can be different themes. But you block those hours in your calendar and then within that block you do specific tasks that correlate to that theme. The second thing to look at is what are the things that you are doing yourself and what are the things that you can maybe outsource. Think about editing a podcast. Think about planning in your social media content, that you write it yourself, but someone else makes sure that the post is actually being published. Especially if you're running a business that has grown quickly in a short amount of time, you might be doing a lot of things that you, not necessarily have to do yourself. And if you can create a situation where you are more free to do the things that are really the core of your business and someone else does all these side tasks to say, that will make it possible for you to grow even more. The third thing is to answer to yourself, how many hours would you ideally work? Because chances are high that you're working more hours than you would prefer to. And that can happen. That can happen unconsciously. So it's important to take a step back and think, what would be my ideal work week? And then see how can I do everything in that amount of time, or what do I need to change? It's also important to give relaxing time a place in your schedule. Me time, time for yourself, that you don't have to do anything, that you can just decide, now I want to read a book, or now I want to go outside. And maybe you're like, I really have an urge to work. I'm so full of great ideas, that you have the availability, the possibility to work, but not have to. So it's really important to give yourself a priority in your schedule. Another thing you can do to work more productively is to eliminate distractions. And of course, the first thing that probably comes to mind is your phone. Can you turn off notifications or leave your phone in another room? But it's also when you're working at home, for example, that your roommates don't come into your office the whole time and distract you. Because there have been multiple researches that if you're working on something in a high focus and someone is getting you out of that focus, that it takes you pretty long to come back to that same level of focus that you were before you were being interrupted. So being interrupted is really a killer for your productivity. And that's also the case for animals in your house and for kids running around and household tasks, for example. How can you eliminate it when you're at work? And maybe it's as easy as just closing the door of your office and making an agreement if the door is closed, no one comes in. Or it can be that you use noise cancelling headphones so you don't hear stuff that's happening around. Look at what works for you. What can also be very nice is to work at a different place than where you always work, because that boosts creativity. So if you're like, I feel like I'm doing the same thing all day, every day, it's all more of the same and it gets boring. Maybe you can take your same tasks but go somewhere else, and then suddenly you're like, oh wow, now I finished this task what I normally, takes me about an hour or 2 hours, and now I'm done in 30 minutes. Because you found maybe a creative new way to do it. And that's also if you work somewhere else with other people, maybe someone has a genius idea for you to speed up that task that is taking you normally way too long. Furthermore, what I like to end off this episode with are three, smaller things about your focus in your business. For example, about your attention. Does your attention and your main marketing go to your big one-on-one offer? Or does it go to your offers that are only worth 10 or 20 bucks each? Is it maybe a smarter idea to have a more orientated focus on that bigger offer from which you only have to sell one, for example, than to put all your time and energy in selling, tens or hundreds of a small offer? That's interesting to have a look at. The second thing is, do you have systems for your sales pipeline? Do you have a system in where you can follow up your leads easily and know who your leads are and at what stage of the sales process they are? This can save you a lot of time compared to, for example, always having to look up in your mail, like when was my last contact moment and what did this person say about maybe wanting to go to work, for example, or that you agreed on following up later this year. If you have to remember it, that's pretty annoying. If you have an automated lead system, it will just pop in your calendar like, yep, this week you have to follow up on that person because you agreed upon, a few months ago. And the third thing is using automations in, for example, your email system. If someone clicks on a link of scheduling a call with you, but they don't actually schedule the call, it's interesting to have an automation that, maybe a day or a week after, you send them a follow-up email. So that happens automatically. You don't have to do it yourself, but your email system does it for you. Those are also very small things to do if you integrate those in your business to use your time more efficiently and smart. I'm curious to hear about you, which tip of the ones that I gave you in this episode you will start practicing and how it's helping you. So please reach out to me through a message on Instagram, for example. My channel is phyllis.bc. Or send me an email. You can find my contact details in the description by this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, leave a review, and I see you next week. Bye bye.